Okay, happy Friday, everybody. We are back with another Fireside Friday. We're in the Verizon Connect offices again here in Sandyford in Dublin. And we have a little bit of a different broadcast today. Today we're meeting with an amazing intern in Verizon Connect who is a part of the firmware and QA engineering team. Mia Foley was recommended as a person that we speak with by Raresh Platon, our senior engineering manager of the firmware and QA automation engineering team here in Verizon Connect and Mia. So we're going to bring Mia into the stream now. And Mia, hiya, you're here.
Hi.
Welcome. How's it going? So I was just saying, just before I brought you into the broadcast, I was mentioning that we had a very firm recommendation from Mr. Raresh Platon to reach out to you and see if we could have a bit of a chat. So I understand you're currently in TUD Dublin, right, doing engineering.
I am, yeah. I'm in electrical, specifically communications and electronics engineering. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So how long have you been doing your internship with us in Connect?
So I've been doing it since the start of March 7th to be specific. So as part of, I'm in the third year of my course now, and as part of it, we have to do 6 months of paid work experience in order to put it towards our degree, which I think is really good. It gets you a lot of like hands-on experience, looks great on a CV, and employers really like to see that you've actually worked in an engineering workplace before. So yeah, it's really good.
Okay. I've spoken with loads of interns over the years, and there's always this kind of worry about what you're going to be doing when you go into an internship. Mm-hmm. Is it going to be real work, or is it, just getting the badge and being able to put that on the CV? What's your experience? Because you're here, you're here a bit of time now, enough time to get under the hood a little bit. How real is it? How real is the work that you're getting involved in?
Well, here I can say anyway, the work is definitely real. I'm not the typical, I suppose, stereotypical intern where it's fetching coffee and photocopying and stuff like that. There's none of that happening. I have actual hardware that I actually have to set up and actually have to test. And it's great though, because I feel like I really contribute to the team when I do stuff like that. Yeah. Like I'm assigned test cases and I actually have to run through them and I have to write up about them and everything. So yeah, it's really applicable work. It's really good.
Just before we kicked off the stream, you were telling me a little bit about so we live in this interesting moment in time right now where everybody was desk bound a couple of years ago, and the world imploded on itself around COVID, and now we're in a hybrid or work forward, as we call it in Verizon. But there are fairly serious implications for somebody like yourself who might be involved in let's call it hardware engineering or electronic engineering as a discipline, because there's a physical component to what you do, right?
Yeah. So I suppose it's hard to kind of do the things that you'd usually be able to do, is because you have to physically touch the stuff and be able to test it. Like if I was a software engineer, I could just put it on my laptop, run it everywhere. But with this kind of stuff, especially because of a lot of the stuff we work with Verizon Connect is GPS sensitive. Yeah. So it really does matter where you are and where the hardware is. So in order for me to actually work on it, all of the equipment, like lab equipment, like power supplies, the actual testing devices, a laptop that will work with it, all have to be sent out to my house. And I've got to keep it all safe, like proper Verizon equipment. I have to make sure it's all safe in my house, which is kind of terrifying. Yeah. Yeah.
You've been threatened. This equipment better get back safely.
Terrifying. Every time I open my door, I'm worried the cat's gonna run in and like ruin something.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Terrifying.
Yeah. We had a call literally yesterday where one of the team was giving us some really cool thoughts on something we're working on at the moment. But he reminded me of Blofeld from the James Bond movie Dr. No, because quite literally, we see this portrait photograph, and then all of a sudden, this beautiful cat just starts walking across his keyboard as he's talking. But obviously, that's a little bit more serious when you're talking about expensive kit and hardware.
Yeah. I mean, my cat's fairly good. He wouldn't be into biting wires or anything. I just worry he's going to hit the wrong button.
Yeah. Right on. Okay, so if you could maybe, I mean, tell me a little bit about you. So you're an engineering student. What type of engineering are you studying at the moment?
So the way I kind of got into engineering was in the course that I do in TU. It's general entry, so you do electronic, civil, and mechanical to start with. So then from there, you kind of choose what you want to do. So I've had a taster of everything, and I've kind of decided what I actually like, which is the electronics. And then after that, you go on into second year where you do more electronics, just general. And then in third, you specialize. So right now I'm specializing in communications in the electronics. So that would be like networking, data, all that kind of things. And then of course, actual like hardware, like putting together circuits and op amps. So they kind of tie in quite well together. But they also make you do all the core modules as well. So we also learn about power and everything like that. So we come out pretty well rounded, I think. But the downside to that is you do have to do modules that you don't like. I was like, oh, I'll do communications and electronics because I like both of those. Like, you still have to learn about a power grid. And I was like, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I remember talking with Preeti also on your team recently, and I think we were reflecting on a time when she was building, I guess, a remote lab in her home, but she was surrounded or swamped by power units and that type of thing as a part of it. So I'm going to guess that you've been getting that power unit treatment from Raresh and crew as well.
Yeah, if you could only see what was behind the laptop. Like, I've got like a task lamp here that I have to like lower down to actually use stuff. There's a massive, I swear to God, it took two of us to lift this actual power unit up onto the desk, and every day I worry it's going to tip over. And then there's like all the equipment to actually test on top of it.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But I'm not as bad as some of the guys. Some of the guys have a lot more to test than me, so they have like
I think your broadband might be coming.
Out.
Yeah, I think your broadband might be coming and going a little bit. You can hear me though. I can certainly hear you. That's for sure.
Oh, there you're back. See me anymore? Oh dear.
No, you're back. You're back.
Okay.
You're back in action.
Okay, cool.
Very good. All right. So what I caught there was that behind the scenes we've got a very heavy power unit that took two people to lift up onto the desk, and lots of other kit. Okay, that's kind of cool. Right. All right. So I'll tell you what I'm doing as a recruiter. The clocks, the dials are always ticking away, and what I'm hearing is that you're studying electronic engineering. You've got this preference toward communications and electronics. Don't necessarily want to learn about national power grids and that kind of thing, but somewhere in the middle, we've got to the point of power systems that power up communication devices. So I would argue, or I would wonder that the internship you're doing is highly relevant to both what you're studying and what you're interested in as well.
Yeah, it definitely is, especially because, well, of course, the way Verizon Connect works is it's all about networks, Verizon in general, telecommunications and all that. So very relevant. And also, I'm about to embark on a project as well with the team, which is all about like machine learning and embedding stuff in actual circuits. So that's going to be so relevant, and I'm really, really excited about it.
Okay, that's fairly bleeding edge then. If you're getting into that, here's a question for you. You've got it. I mean, what does your class look like? How many people will be on that course at the moment?
So in the course, there's about 30 of us total. some of them came in from different streams, some of them came from second year, some of them came from different courses. It's about 26 boys, 4 girls. So exactly is like roughly the 10% is about right of women in STEM. But what I find quite strange is that none of the girls are the same at all. Like I was expecting there was a niche of kind of girls that would be in STEM. We're all completely different. It's wild. I thought there would be like duplicates.
So that kind of 10%, or that cohort, let's just say, they're not just all there because they're interested in communications and communication technologies. Okay, so what other interests are you seeing in there? What kind of, and I would imagine their interests would lead them to certain companies or certain type of internships. And what are you seeing?
So one of my friends in there, she's more interested in the business applications of kind of this technology, whereas I'm more kind of interested in the actual like exploratory side of it. But she's really interested in like banking and like how to problem solve, and that's why she's there. She wants to learn how to problem solve, how to use new software, all that kind of stuff, which is a really different take, of course, to what I do, but really, really interesting.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. I've worked for a number of fintech businesses over the years, and let's get real. They all run on electronic communication equipment, and even the Swift system itself is very much so under the spotlight at the moment. But you can see how engineers have crafted that, and how the communication system that sits on top of the equipment to enable that is what the world runs on at the moment. So that's really interesting. So women in STEM, that's the topic we kind of talked about very briefly before we kicked off the stream. So you're seeing, so your class is somewhat reflecting what would be recognized as a bit of a trend within STEM. What is that trend indicative of? Why are so few women going into STEM courses in your experience and what you've seen?
I find it has a lot to do with I find it has a lot to do with like how we're brought up, and like when we're kind of in secondary school, I find is mostly when that happens, because when I was in secondary school, I found a lot of girls lean towards nursing or being a doctor or that kind of thing, kind of like nurturing degrees. Whereas when I would talk to them about it, they were actually more interested in the like biomedical side of it. Like they actually cared more about the equipment or whatever. And I was like, would you not just do engineering? And they're like, no, I'll just be a doctor. I just think that they kind of think there's a bit of a wall there, I suppose.
Okay.
And especially because it's a bit of like, as much as you had said, it is a bit of a boys' club at times. Trying to kind of navigate your way through class, because I went to an all-girls secondary school. I'm so used to like communicating with girls. I know how girls work. I know like how we interact with each other. Going into a course that was mostly men, it's a very strange dynamic. I find they're a lot more straightforward. Like they'll just come up to you and be like, "Hi, can you do this assignment with me?" And I was like, "Oh, we're not gonna, no pleasantries, no coffee, okay?" It's like it's a completely different world for me. I'm of course used to it now after like 3 years, but I feel like it's girls like don't know other girls in engineering. Like when I was in secondary school, I didn't know any girl ever that like in my family or in my friend group that had even thought of doing engineering. And the thought of that was like, well, how do I get in there? Will I make friends? All that kind of stuff. But when you're there, 10 other girls are doing nursing in secondary school. So you're like, oh, I'll do nursing, Yes. It's very much a kind of cult mentality, I suppose, about it, which makes sense because you don't really want to delve into something that you know is going to be a struggle from the beginning,
Yeah, or is just alien because it hasn't been spoken about, or that's really interesting. So, okay, so we have an education system. So we have a workforce, right? We have a workforce where we're losing out on a certain percentage of our population that could be great engineers, let's just say. So there's a gap, let's call it a gap, right? That's what it is. But then when you go back to the programs such as the TUD engineering, electronic and engineering degree that you're doing at the moment, there's that same gap is there as well. And what you've done is you've stepped back into secondary school, and the gap exists in secondary school. So here's a question for you, and asking you to fix the world or anything like that, but where do you think we start? Is it secondary school? Is it primary school? Where do we start to make the change? Is it at home? You mentioned the way we were brought up, right? Maybe it's at home. Where do we start?
I think it does, of course, start at home. Like from this moment you're born, boys are kind of given Legos and the girls are kind of given dolls. And it sounds like an outdated thing, but like people don't do that anymore. But they do. Like people do still immediately go, oh, well, all these kind of techie things are for the boys and all of these other things are for the girls. And even if you do give them the same toys, it's usually a girl's version, which is like, oh, it's a pink laptop. It's pretty. Yes. Which, I mean, it's fine. Pink laptops are great. But I've also found that a lot of the time they have like less functionality, and they have like my little niece, actually, she well, not my niece, sorry, my cousin, she has, her and her brother have like matching, like, I suppose they're like kids' laptops. Hers has a little makeup mirror on it. And I was like, I was like, oh, okay. And then what's Luke like? And she was like, oh, well, his is just normal. I was like, okay, interesting. So I think it starts there. It starts with, of course, the toys, the way you're brought up, and that kind of stuff. And then when you go into primary school, the divide furthers, because girls kind of tend to make friends with girls, boys kind of make friends with boys. And if all your friends are into, you know, makeup, fashion, all this, you're not going to look outside of it. You're not going to look for other things that interest you because you want to make friends.
Yeah.
And then you get to secondary school. And I went to an all-girls, like, Catholic secondary school. Yeah. And there was home ec, there was all the sciences. There was no, like, technical classes. Like, we weren't taught to code. We weren't taught how to work with our hands or anything like that. It was, like, it's very strange to me that we had home ec, but we didn't have, like, technical drawing or anything like that.
Yeah. What age are you, Mia, can I ask?
I'm 21.
You're 21. So we are talking about relatively recent times here when you've gone back to secondary school, right? I know you're just about to graduate, you know, soon enough, right? But this is not 20 years ago. This is not 30 years ago. This is recent times. Yeah. I remember, I'm older than you, right? As you can tell. But I remember being in, I want to say, second year in, to your description, in an all-boys Catholic school. And back then they had just introduced, so this is a long time ago, right? But they just introduced, it wasn't programming classes, it was keyboard classes. But it was the first step into what, I guess, over the next few years, as we went through the end of the 90s, became IT in Ireland. Very early stages in the development of what is now a booming technology industry in Ireland. But even back then, our boys' school had access to something technical in that regard. And as you said, there was technical drawing, there was woodworking, you know, craft-oriented and engineering-oriented disciplines in a secondary school. But that has not yet proliferated into, you know, through the system, through the education system, into girls' schools as well as boys' schools, from what you're saying.
Yeah, actually, the way I can kind of describe as kind of a lot of girls had a step back is the first year I went into general entry engineering. And because we had to do mechanical, civil, and electrical, we had to do technical drawing. So I went in not knowing what any of the equipment was. I didn't have any of it. I had to buy all of it. And I went in and we had 2 hours to complete our drawings. And I was really struggling. I was like trying to like maneuver. I didn't know how to get the desks up and, you know, the like slanted desks. I didn't know any of that.
Yeah.
And then I just noticed that all the guys were getting up and leaving. I was like, where are they going? Because they all had like 3 years of technical drawing experience in secondary school. Like they already had like knowledge that I had no access to. I didn't even know technical drawing existed. Yeah. So I had to like stay and work late and make sure that I knew how to do it. And then I was marked down for things because the lecturers almost kind of assumed that I'd know. They're like, oh, your margins are like a centimeter off or this. I was like, they have to be the same. Like we were never given set instructions on what to do because they assumed we knew.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. I had to ask all the guys for help. I was like, how do you do this? And they're like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were pre-conditioned. They were pre-prepared. Very much so before a normal preparation would start for that type of thing. So they were in the system, and it was a funnel into that course. And
Yeah.
then once in there, there was an assumption that knowledge was there. It sounds like, but also what it doesn't sound like it was perfectly inclusive either. In that
Yeah.
they don't look and who in this class hasn't done this before necessarily. Okay, you're as fast as your slowest runner in the relay race, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, that's interesting. So we got to start at home, and we definitely need a little bit of an overhaul in the education system from what you say. That's unreal. Okay, but that aside, right? So they're interesting things, and Verizon is purposeful about early in careers programs and trying to make the environment as, I want to say, as inclusive as possible, right? But that systemic issue aside, how is your experience of the internship that you've ended up in so far? So if let's say you're talking to the next Mia Foley, who's either, I want to say, in secondary school and maybe has that feeling or that worry or that interest, or somebody who's in first or second year behind you, who might be thinking about getting out there into the kind of hardcore engineering you're doing as opposed to the hardcore business application engineering. What would you say to them about internships?
I would say that everybody does not want you to fail. If you have a problem, there's always somebody that's more than happy to help you out. Like, I have two buddies in my team, very lucky I know, Pretty and Antonio. And anytime I have literally even the minorest issue, if I send them like a Slack message, they're immediately like, yeah, sure, I can totally help you out with that. And it doesn't feel like, I don't feel like I'm looked down on because I don't know things. I don't feel like I'm pressured to know everything right now. And I really feel like that, like, I'm learning as I go. They don't expect me to come in and be able to overhaul everything, which is great because internships are a learning experience rather than anything. And I'd say to like anyone who, of course, is like in any future me's, if they are in secondary school, if they are in primary school, it is daunting to begin with, but I absolutely promise you, there's always going to be people at your back. There's always going to be resources. There's always mentors out there who will help you. And even then, fake it till you make it. If you just walk in with confidence and start trying things, I swear you'll get so far.
Yeah, that's really cool advice. So I've got two little girls at home. They're 10 and 8. So they're not secondary school, but they're and my 10-year-old, they have cousins who are that same age group as well, 10 as well. And their cousin's mother is a secondary school teacher. So they're all having a kind of a midterm break, play date, sleepover type thing at the moment. So I'm going to share this video straight away after this, and I'm going to ask my sister to watch it and see what she thinks, because I think you're right. That's really good advice, and good advice is as good as the people that listen to it and hear it. So it needs to be spread around. That's cool. All right, tell me another thing then. In terms of, and I know you're not finished your internship yet, right? And you've got a pretty big project you're about to embark on, and you've got mentors and a cool team. What are your to-date learning outcomes that you've had? What kind of outcomes have you gotten so far?
So far, I've learned, first thing I kind of learned is a lot about how business kind of infrastructure works, like the kind of way you have to go about doing things is very different to, I suppose, college. In college, it's like they tell you to do something, they give you all the instructions, you submit the assignment, you get graded on the assignment. In work, everything is subject to change. Like you get told to do something, and then there's always like little tweaks along the way. You have to learn how to like adapt fairly quickly because the higher ups plans change faster than you can probably keep up with a lot of the time. And it's just learning that everything that you do is important to keep on file. So if you do something and it's not relevant right now, keep it because you'll probably need it again for something else. Write it down, make a note of it, that kind of thing. As well as that, I've actually been kind of like learning a lot about machine learning and reading through there's a lovely wiki in the QA, in the hardware QA that my lovely team has put together, basically trying to teach you how to actually use all of that. So I've been reading that, and I've been learning about all the software that we've been using in here and how they all interact. And in doing that, it teaches you a lot about the back end and how to work with like general software applications, like how hardware goes to software, how it connects to the internet, especially about how everything can go wrong. There's literally at any step of the way, something can malfunction. And it's really, really interesting. I love it.
I thought that nothing went wrong on Raresh's team.
Nothing goes wrong on Raresh's team. It's never our fault. Never our fault.
it's never the QA team's fault. Never.
Never.
No. They don't create problems. They fix them, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Great. Well, look, I think we're just up on time now. I just want to say thanks for taking the time to talk with me. I love the idea that I can now go and share this with my 10-year-old and 8-year-old daughter, because they're going to start thinking about their futures at some stage, you know, and that's kind of cool. And then my sister, who's a secondary school teacher, maybe she can get some of the kids in school to have a think about this and what a career in technology could mean to them, right?
Well, if they ever need a mentor, always reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to help other girls. Always happy.
I am actually taking note of that very, very fact. Thank you so much. Now, I ask everybody a question at the end of the interviews I do, and it's usually to recommend somebody that I talk to. So what I would do this time, if you're okay with it, is put a little spin on it, because it doesn't have to be within Verizon Connect, right? It could be somebody that is related to your course, for example, who interacts with Verizon Connect, or it could be somebody cool in the business that you have worked with. Anybody you think that we should have a chat with, who would you recommend we connect with?
Oh, that's a hard one. I don't know if I have anyone off the top of my head.
That's okay.
Yeah. Maybe I'll have a think about it. I'll let you know.
Have a think about it and ping me. We have a big list of people that we want to get through, but I would love to get your thoughts on anything else we might reach out to. I think Raresh mentioned Ken, who he had worked with recently as well. So
I think that would be very interesting.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
All right, well, look, happy Friday. Thanks a million for taking the time to talk to us. I really enjoyed that chat. I've got a note down here by way of you being a future mentor to people as well. So we'll spread the word, right?
Do.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, Mia. Take care.
You.
Okay, folks. So there you've heard from Mia Foley, who is an intern on the QA and firmware engineering team within Verizon Connect, about her experience in academia as a girl in tech, as a girl in academia, as a girl in the home environment, who's thinking about embarking on that career in deep technology. If you're an intern, a future intern, or if you're a student who's thinking about graduate programs, you want to get that experience. Each year we do have internships and graduate programs. They're usually planned quite far down the line. So if you're in first year, second year, third year, reach out, like and comment below, and we'll connect you with our early in careers team. The fabulous Mindy is our person who is very much so on top of early in careers, internships, graduate programs. Alternatively, if you're an experienced person who has maybe dipped out of the workforce and has come back into academia to refresh your knowledge, but you have prior experience in engineering and technology, connect with us as well. Just like and comment below, and we'll make sure that the team reach out to you. Otherwise, if you're in engineering, data, project management, architecture, DevOps, we're hiring. We're very, very busy. So do connect with us, and we'll let you know about the right people to talk to learn more about careers in Verizon Connect. But for now, we'll leave you with our Credo video as always. Happy Friday. Have a good one, and we'll see you next week.
from where we work to where they live, from our technology to supporting theirs. From each and every one of us to each and every one of them. Everything we do affects everything they do. That's why how we work, what we believe, our values make all the difference.
We share our success with the community
to make the world in which we work better than it was yesterday.
We keep our commitments to each other and our customers.
We know teamwork enables us to serve our customers better and faster.
We focus outward on the customer, not inward.
Our actions produce measurable results.
We run to a crisis, not away.
We are committed to doing the right thing.
This is our credo. Our guide to what really matters. How we stay connected to each other and to them. We are Verizon.